Hello, welcome, Pierre, CEO of Cabri Mascot. If you could just start by giving us a little introduction on yourself and Cabri Mascot.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Hi, Alex, first, and thank you so much for having me here. It's a real pleasure. Yes, so I'm the CEO of Cabri Mascot, and my background is a bit specific, is a bit unusual because my parents, they were both academics in math education, and my four grandparents actually, they were also math teachers. So I spent summers in my grandparents' house, in a house full of math textbooks, and from very young age, I've been involved. For example, I was even crossing the ocean to California, to San Jose, to train and help the training of future math teachers on how to leverage technology when I was just 14. So I would say, yeah, my background was really in the past. It was really in my DNA to work in edtech sector today. Uh, Even if my background was also very involved with love for music and music tech, actually.
So, yeah, it seems you were made to be working within maths, like you say. And
Yes.
did you always enjoy maths from a young age? Did you enjoy it as a kid?
Yeah. Actually, when I was a kid, I thought maths were fun because they were not so complex to deal with. It's not something you need to learn by heart, or it's really how you can resolve something. So it was like some games. But really, what I was deeply in love with as topics were more physics and music. I was really trying to understand the world and the law of the universe. And so physics was much more attractive for me than actually math, even if I was overwhelmed by math around me. And then from this point, I've been able to for my study to be interested in doing engineering because it was very concrete. It was not too conceptual. It was how to have an impact in the real world based on physics. And yes, I worked as I was very much in love with music. I've tried to specialize on technologies that could serve musicians on how to create music to enhance the creative process for them. And then from that, I've been able to go outside of France. I went to the in Spain and in Barcelona, actually in the Universitat Politécnica de Catalunya. And from then, I came back to France and again in Montreal, in McGill, in the Faculty of Music. And it was really about how to leverage technology to help musicians. I was not meant at the beginning to work on mass education. I was more about technology for music.
What of maths, music, and physics? What have they taught you about business?
Yes, that's a very interesting question. So, what math and music tells me about business? Actually, it's quite interesting because some years ago we've made a project. It was one of the first project in Europe funded by the European Commission for STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, and arts. The A of arts and mathematics. And what we proposed, it was not a proposition initially from Cabrilog. It was by some partners, and we've proposed something to learn math, physics, and technology through music. And actually, there is a lot of connection between math and music. You can code music. You can generate music by rules. And if you study the great composer, you will see patterns also in the way the sound is generated. There is a lot of model that can be described by math equation. So it's fascinating to see how math can help to understand music. And the same way, if you maybe as a student, it's much abstract for you, the math concept and the physics concept. learning them through music can be a good way to do it. And in this e-musica project, one thing we did was the ability for the student to create their own 3D instruments and turn around, see if I put a string, what if I change the thickness of the string, how it impacts the sound, what is the physics behind the sound generation, what is the mass, the symmetries, and so on. And we help them also to, from this virtual 3D instrument, to print it and see how it sounds in real life, and use those with the music teacher to create their own composition based on the instruments they created. And it's really what we are trying actually to do in Cabri. It's to think the science, the technology, but also other disciplines, see the intersection and how you can you can make math topics grounded in real life situation to talk to the kids. And then the relationship with business, it's less obvious for me. So I will skip this question.
Yeah.
I should think about it a bit more, I think, to answer it.
Yes, it's.
Maybe you have an idea. I don't know if you ask the question.
I think there's a link somewhere. It's just connecting the dots. Like maybe, you know what? I would say how maths has helped me understand business is probability. So as a
Yeah.
CEO, you never have complete information. You've always got to make decisions where you're not always sure. So it's assessing probabilities. So I think maths has taught me as a business person to think in probabilities. And I think that's the link between maths and business.
Yeah,
Maybe
for
that's
sure.
just one.
Yeah, no. Now, thinking it that way, it makes totally sense. And I was putting in the equation math, music, and business, and I was okay. Maybe it's too much, but yeah, for sure, math in business, it's a tool. It's very useful, and that's the beauty of math. That if you really look at it, it's everywhere, and it's not something that you can see. And it's actually dangerous because when you're a kid, or if you have parents that don't try to stimulate you on those hard topics, you might think, okay, in my family we are not good at math, we can live without it. But that sometime you will be stuck in your evolution. If you are part of a company, you know how to, you need to know how to deal with proportionality. There is the same way, it's very basic skills to know how to write. Today it's basic skills also to be able to count, and the power of abstraction. The first tool for that is math. So those topics, those skills, they seems to us very important. And for sure, yeah, definitely. If you do business, you need math, and actually many jobs you can do connection with math.
It sounds very much so like you believe in like the multidisciplinary approach and connecting the dots. So I'm curious to hear a little bit more about that and your opinion on multidisciplinaryism.
Yes, we okay. So maybe I can tell you what how we what we do in Cabri, and how we help the multidisciplinary approach. But if I would to try to explain what is our mission, what we try to do is to make math and science in general more accessible to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that it's not something which is obvious for the people to say, okay, I can be good at math, and it's very cultural. So maybe you are in the right school, or with parents that give you the opportunity to think, okay, I can be good at math or science. But in a lot of cases, for example, if you think about gender, the girls culturally, they tend to think that they cannot study math or science very seriously after a few years. And if you read at the study, it starts very low ages, even outside of schools. So we what we try to do with this multidisciplinary approach, and this focus on science and math, is first to empower girls, for example, to be good and to love math. And also We are very interested in disadvantages backgrounds. In France, we have what we call les quartiers, and if you come from those neighbor in your home, you will not be stimulated to those topics. So that's one of the really the deep core of our mission is try to make math accessible to every student, and not maybe people like you or me that as a kid were interested in math and was connecting the dots, as you mentioned. And we are also very focused on helping students with disabilities, with specific learning differences like dyspraxia, to be able to do math as their friends. For example, in Cabri Express app, if you are dyspraxic, you have to imagine a dyspraxic is like if you are trying to do your shoes, lacets, but wearing box gloves.
Wow.
And this is what a dyspraxic feels when he's, for example, trying to use a compass, a square, a compass. And what we do with Cabri, they can make a picture actually of the actual instruction of the teacher. That could be, okay, let's draw or let's construct this equilateral triangle. They can make a picture with their tablet of the topic of the instruction, and then as they are on the tablets, all the gestures, they are very much simplified, and this allow for them the access on how to actually do the construction. And yeah, it's very important for us to make sure that math and science can be accessible for everybody. And that's why also we our platform is completely free for end users. Of course, we have a business model, so schools, the institutions, then they can buy additional pedagogical resources and not just the tools. But what is really the power and the distinctive aspect of our tools, the fact that you can access the math, manipulate the math as real life object inside the app and inside our technologies. This is free for the end user, and the impact is very strong actually on the learning. It's a very strong impact. There were a study from the Ministry of Education in Spain. They involved more than 15,000 students during 6 years using resources that was built, powered by Cabri, by our technology. And at the end of the year, they were like in middle school, they were doing the same exam as the rest of the nation. And those students, those 15,000 students, they had 30% better grades at this paper and pencil exam than the rest of the nation. Why? Of course, for the technology, for the good technologies, the fact that we really put a lot of efforts on the design and making sure that the user experience and user interface is not blocking the access to mass visualization and manipulation. And also because there were training for the teacher. The teacher, they were prepared to use those material with their kids. And I think, yeah, it's really a combination in edtech of good technology, but also some kind of systemic change for the teacher on how to leverage to unleash the technology potential, which doesn't happen alone. And 30% for us, it's really an evidence that you can make a difference using technology for mass education, for example.
So that's very interesting how impactful the technology is. I'm curious what the evolution of the business has been like. So I imagine the technology's improved a lot since you've been there over 20 years.
Yes, that's right. We've started in 2000. As I said, I'm a grandson of teachers, and what we do at Cabrilog is really tools for the teachers in order to have improve learning. So we are really thinking about how we can make the life of a teacher easier, but the impact is on the learning of the student. And on the K-12 segment, which is us, I think the most difficult aspect of what we've been doing was to find good business models. And there were a lot of different chapters in the life of the company. So when I arrived, actually, it was a critical point in the company. The company was not funded by me. It was funded by both my parents, Jean-Marie and Colette, with a co-founder, Max Marcadet, and they asked me. It was very difficult financial situation for the company. It was 2015, this critical moment, and they asked me if I wanted to redress the company. I don't know if it's the right word, or to turn around the company, because the debt was much higher than the assets. We had maybe 30,000 secured revenues in deals, 100 euros in the bank, 2 employees, and we have to redeploy everything, change the business model, change the culture of the company. We did a strong migration because the technology started in the university. My parents were academics, so they started this from research lab in math and didactics. And the code was native code. It was 2015, so you had to be on the web. And it was like, okay, or we close everything, or we trying to change everything at once. And yeah, if I would try to give a strong recommendation to people that want to go in edtech, is really think about your business model, at least in K-12, which is really not obvious. And of course, the product is important, the value you bring to the user, but not forget how then you will be able to fund the product development and the future evolution of your platform.
So in terms of business models, what would you say works and doesn't work, or the main things someone should consider if going into K-12 education?
Yes, and I think I miss your question, Alexander.
Sure.
Sorry.
No problem. So you said about business models. What business models would you say work or do not work in K-12? Or if you're going into K-12 edtech, what must you consider?
Okay, it's a great question. And there is not generic answers about that. I can share the answer we found for ourselves, but I would not say over the words. You have a recipe, and you take the recipe and apply it. It depends on which countries you address, the competitive landscape. For example, in our case, there were a lot of free stuff and copycats that were free outside, which made it difficult to sell something that people might have copied and give for free. So what we had to do was really to change, to pivot, and we started from a pure software company to turn to be a digital resources publisher. And for us, it has been the tipping point on how to pivot and find traction in the market. So we keep building and developing the tools, because that for us really what makes the difference, the differentiation of offer, the fact that the technology is very strong from a point of view of scientific fiability. It's grounded on didactics theories, and also it's evidence based. We test it with educators, with researchers. But then with this technology, we try to prepare resources that can be ready to use for teachers, and that's where we gave them most of the value. When we were trying just to sell the tools and say, okay, you've got the tools and use it, we were just addressing like the top of the users, the more geek, the teachers that might have time, like the early adopters. And it's really when we started to propose full digital curriculum for a given classroom that it was much easier for us to monetize what we were doing. And it's a basic business model we use today. The tools, they are free, as I said. So any specific person, even a parent that want benefits from this wonderful technology, he get on the Cabri website. He can download the app, or he can create an account on our platform on Tactileo and get this for free. And then as a teacher, if I want to implement this with extra step, for example, to have a dashboard, to have ready to teach resources, I can ask my school for a subscription, the same way that a school would buy a textbooks for the students. And that's what we did, and that's when it started to again increase. We had difficult moments, but when we funded and step by step, we've been able to really grow.
How do you see the future of the business, especially regarding technology and artificial intelligence?
There is several aspects about AI that we are thinking about in Cabri Mascot. The first one is in the product, how we can leverage, for example, Gen AI for teachers. And the other one is how also we can leverage AI for the company operations. On the first aspect, we've been embedded AI in our products since 2019, even before the Gen AI app. So we were working with adaptive AI in order to compute dynamic paths for the student and make sure that the exercise that we would propose, the activities that we would propose, was most adapted to a given student needs at a given time. And then when Gen AI arrived, we also started to think how we can, I think today every student, they use maybe ChatGPT to when they have an homework, and I think it's good. It's like when they were the calculators that arrived first. The teacher, they thought, oh, it's they are cheating because they can get the result from the calculator. But if you think about this from the teacher perspective, and you say, okay, they have this powerful tool, how now can I change the activities, the instruction I will give to my students? I know they use the calculator, but maybe I can ask more question or more interesting question based on the fact that they have this powerful tool. And for me, it's the same with ChatGPT, comparative alternative solution. Main difference is from the edtech perspective is how you can embed AI to make sure that this happen in a secure environment first. Then how you can really put the focus on the learning impact, because of course if you ask a question to the student which is just that the result can be a translation, I don't know, from French to English, it just do a copy and paste, and that's it, and he has learned anything. So nowadays with Gen AI, we really start to be able to have, in our case, better digital resources for the students. For example, we use a lot of Gen AI to personalize the feedbacks, and for us, feedbacks are very important. And maybe we'll talk about this later, but the big advantage and benefit of technology of edtech for me is really about interactivity, and the fact you are able to give personalized feedbacks that really take into account the student answer and not generate feedbacks thanks to Gen AI will make a big difference nowadays. So we are working on that with two dimensions. We compute on a cognitive side the best feedback in order to help the student to grasp the concept, or to be unblocked when he is blocked on something. But also the way we will formulate the feedback, we compute it according to what we know about him, about his mood, maybe about his preferences in terms of being visual or auditive people. And for us, it makes a big difference. When before GenAI, when we were making digital resources, the most costful way was how we can prepare all those feedbacks that we really fit the need of the student. And with GenAI, it's quite impressive what you can do. So this is a first part, and the second part, I will try not to develop it as much because it's more generic. We today the company is 30 people, so we've grown a lot since the time 10 years ago. And and nowadays we are thinking, okay, maybe we don't need to be a 100 people companies, even if we sell outside of France, if we are trying to address K-12 from K to 12, how we can make us more productive by using AI also for the production of the content. We use it for coding. It's very fuzzy in the sense that it's really experimenting in each team of the company. Now I know they all use AI, and I think if we do the interview in 2 years, I will be able to tell you, okay, that's where AI for the operation made a difference in marketing, in sales. That's the process, the automation that we've been able to find. But I think for the next chapter of the company, I have really this belief that we will have to embrace AI, not just to put this power for the students and the teacher, but also in our operation in order to grow more steadily. So we do both. When the company started in the first chapter, the one of the founders, they were, I would say, 30% of the turnover that were from the revenues, they were coming from France, and the rest from outside of the world, in Asia, Latin America, and several countries in Europe, like Italy. It has been very strong for them. And then when we had to redeploy it and restart it from being a software company to a digital pedagogical resources publisher, we refocus first on France and were very opportunistic about sell outside. So when there were, for example, we had an opportunity to sell for every primary schools in Chile with 12 mass app in 2015, and where there were opportunities as we had already a network of distributors, we dived into the opportunity, but there were no real strategy. Since last year, we've acquired another tech called Mascot, and in order to enlarge the offer, not just for math technology, but also biology, for example. And we do the whole spectrum. And so the company increased a lot in 1 year in terms of offer and revenues. And we have like now critical mass, I would say, that enables us to be more conquerant, how you would say, to conquer. I don't know how you would say in English. Sorry. So we have this critical mass of people, so we can start to conquer and be more strategic on where we will develop outside. And we push a lot in Africa, in French-speaking companies. And we have in 2 countries in Europe where we really are starting to invest again in order to grow outside by prioritizing. So if you, as I said at the beginning, we have just this mass app. It was a mass tool, and it was very easy to be everywhere because as it was the first dynamic geometry software, and dynamic geometry was put in every curriculum in France and abroad. There were like this international network, and it was really through distributor channels. But then when we had to redeploy, we thought, okay, we will capitalize on this network, but we will not stimulate them and spend energy because we really need to refocus on our pivot. So we just been opportunistic. And nowadays, as we start again, we prioritize. We cannot push everywhere. So if we have a call, I don't know, from Czech Republic, of course, we are able to sell the products that are localized for this company. But there is so much adaptation when you turn from a pure tool software to resources. When you talk about resources, they will be aligned with the curriculum. They need to be adapted to the local culture. You cannot have a global offer when you are digital resources based. So in this case, we go step by step in very specific countries, as I mentioned, and not try to be everywhere, because if you try to be everywhere, you are in no place, actually. That's a good question. So we have two European countries that are prioritized now. We made actually market research with consultant and see where there were opportunities for STEAM medtech according to the investment the country they could. And this is for the European part. And for the African country, it was more like a continuation of initiatives that have been made by the mascots that we integrate to the Cabri family last year. They were already they had already Imagine École, which is a UNESCO project to give access to a platform of digital resources on the phone, for example, of the student in 12 different countries from Africa. So based on this context, it looks to us that we have a strong opportunities to transform this in more operation for us in those countries. Le, it it's yeah. Marketing is I don't if we it's just it's that's not yes, that's an interesting question in this sense, because you what we try is to what we do is to give value to the teacher and students, and we are not trying to sell anything to them, actually. It's more there is value that they can have access to, and we don't do marketing as I would say I don't know, a cleaning liquid for doing dishing your washes. What is important for us is it's that the product we do, they are really rooted in research. We are a spin-off of the University of Grenoble in French Alps. All all the digital resources and the apps that we design, they are founded on principles from the fields of didactics and the latest research in neuroscience. The project, when we developed a new collection of content, new digital resources, we always involve researchers, educators, plus the tech people from our company. And it's really this cooperation that makes that we have something that has an impact. We were talking about feedbacks before and the importance of interactivity. The fact that when a student make an answer which is not good, which is a wrong answer, and that we can adapt the feedback to the nature of the error of the student, is really based on research. It's evidence based. We use what we call scaffolding. So based on Brunner's principles, which is how you can scaffold, how you can help the student to navigate in his ZPD, zone of proximal development, and yeah. So the fact that we work with educators, with researchers, we use those principles really makes the products that will work. From a marketing point of view, I would say that's the first stone. The way we build the product, the importance we give to the design, and then, like a more traditional marketing way, we have a very simple philosophy, which is we believe that the people that can talk about the product the better are the ones that design it. So if we work with teachers and authors, we think that they are the best to talk to their peers why this product is important, what is the value, and we don't try to promote directly ourselves like a regular company. The best one to talk about it, they are the designers, the teachers that made it or use it. And with teacher, it's, yeah, you cannot fake it. Maybe at first they might think it sounds interesting, but then when they try it, it doesn't work, and they skip it, they go to another thing, and then it's dead. The next year they will not use it. It's very important to create a use of your product. So the only way is to make something that worked based on research, on the working with teacher, to make sure that is it's useful, and the teacher, they can tell by themselves. So if they have a peer that say it's good, they will try and they will use it, and yes, that's the marketing we try to do. And the marketing, as I said, it's really embedded in the product itself. And what we try to, the only question is we ask ourselves is, how can we be useful to the teacher without changing the way they work? And this is very important. A lot of edtechs, they do this error. They try to come with something which is disruptive for the teacher, but actually you really need to look how the teacher they work, what is their practices, and then with technology, how you can empower them, how you can augment their capacities. And for example, it's what we do with a new offer which is called Origamia, which is based on AI with Gen AI, adaptive AI, and also this ability to scan paper and then play on the digital screen. Maybe you have static content and you turn it live on your screen with the scan features. And this way, for them, there is like a continuity between what they do on paper, what they will do on manipulatives, and the technology is just something to articulate all those supports, but not to be destructive and say, okay, we will do something very special now. We will use a tablet, and it just blended, And that's really what we try to do, is to respect the way the teacher work and expand what is their traditional practices instead of trying to change the way they teach. Actually, I like a lot to learn new things, and it's really a driving things for me. I try to learn a lot by reading first. I like to read like philosophical essay or biographies from great people, to be inspired. Yes, there is one biography about Schubert, which is, I don't remember the name, but to be able to go in the life inside the head, and also from this perspective, autobiographies, they are very interesting to see the people that you might admire or might know also personally, when you read how they went through life and how they made their decision. I think it's a very, very strong. It can have a very strong impact. For example, one of our founder, Max Marcadet, is a little bit older, and it was time for him to write his biography. And when you read it, and you can interact with him because it's still involved in on a strategic level with us, you better understand his perspective, and you better understand the meaning actually of his proposition, because you know from where he talked from. And biographies is also a great way to learn about history. But to go back to your question about learning, I like to read, but of course it takes time. And one of the best way for me to learn is also by doing. And for example, I don't know, I want to learn a new language. I want to learn Portuguese, and I will go 3 weeks in Lisbon, try to do business meeting with users. And that's the way you, by setting specific goals that correspond to actual needs for you, to make the motivation concrete, and not try to learn just for the sake of learning, but how you can directly apply those new skills to actually do better what you are trying to do. So yeah, learning by reading and by doing. Wow, the best the best advice I would have been given, or reading. I must keep on this question. It's I don't have anything in mind for now. Sorry, Alex. Yes, thank you for your time, Alex, and it was a great pleasure for me to do this talk with you, and I will looking forward to the other interviews you do, and thank you so much for helping our communities. And one maybe one thing I could tell, not something that has been told, but something that has I've observed in our ecosystem. I think it's very important, and mostly in Europe, that we try to do alliances with the tech. For example, I'm very much involved in AFINEF, which is a French professional association, trade association for edtech, the leading one in France since many years. And we are also part of the European EdTech Alliance, which is an alliance of EdTech associations that represent more than several thousand of companies. And those alliances, they really help us to improve as a company. It's a new sector, and if we don't do these alliances at the European level, I think we might lose some sovereignty and independence. And when we are talking about education and culture, it's very important to that the content we can provide, the technology, we can have a control on this. And so I really believe in this collaboration. I think you are part of this with your podcast. So I would like to thank you for this. And yes, thank you. See you.